Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
A lot. Well, I am going to England on Thursday to see my best friend Felipe, and I have to finish a lot of work before then. There are like 5 websites that are hanging over us. There are like 5 or 6 interns that are being trained in various aspects of design and development, and we're experimenting with this video thing as well. That's a big new development for us. So a lot of trial and error, a lot of interesting things happening in that front. Some interviews that I had last week on the videography position are panning out. So you will have people joining you and our team on the video front. So we'll probably have them come in at some point this week, maybe Tuesday, tomorrow, or Wednesday before I fly off. So, and have them introduced to this whole process. Just a lot, you know, and it's incredible. This is what I talk about with everyone that I interview. And what I say is that people expect me to look for certain skills and even at the interview, like test for those skills and even like send little trip up questions that will throw people off if they don't know what they're talking about, and filter out people that don't understand and only get people that know certain skills. I'm a firm adherent of, and we can talk about where I get this perspective from, but I'm a firm adherent of a different way of looking at people, and that is that skills today are a commodity. Like, they're cheap to get. Like, if I ask someone to do something and they don't know how to do it, they can learn that thing in a month, and then suddenly they do know how to do it. So if they're a great person and they can learn something in a month, then what sense does it make to judge them on the basis of that skill or not having that skill? Like, it's senseless to judge them on something they can quickly acquire. So right away, the main standard philosophy of how to judge employees and hire people, I think, is wrong. What I do look for is the ability for people to be on the same wavelength as me, and sort of be on, in the same mission as me, as all of us. So that's the most important thing: is your heart aligned with where our hearts are aligned? If you're like just a person that's looking for the same stuff, that's looking for the same work, looking for the same kind of world, to sort of usher in the same world that we're all trying to usher in, right? The values we're all trying to aspire for. Just are they willing to help us build that thing that we all share together already, right? And as long as they have that personal connection, that their heart is engaged in the process, they're not just here just to clock in, clock out, 9 to 5, and then I'm out. Like, I don't care about this. As long as like they have a heart commitment, I couldn't care less about what their skills are. And there's people behind me over there that one person, is working as a waiter in a restaurant. Somebody else is, a computer science student at Penn, and they're learning how to be a graphics designer with us instead. The people can have all kinds of different contexts, and their life can come from a very different place than you would expect. But that doesn't matter, because that's easy to get to change and all that. Is their heart aligned? Are they good people? That's not something you could change in a month. You can't just be a different person in a month because we need you to, or you can't become a good person in a couple of weeks because we ask you to. You are who you are, and that's important to filter out people that are not good. So if you're just a good person, that's going to be a much higher recommendation in your favor than any skill you might bring. If your heart is aligned, even if it's you're by yourself and there's nobody else, you're just solopreneur or you're working in a company, it doesn't really matter, but you have a heart desire to build something, to see something, and it's not just something that they imposed on you from the outside, but you don't really care about it. If your heart is in it, you will want to see it through. You will want to see it done. You will go out on a limb. You will do extra things to get it done. Stay up late if you need to, or work weekends if you need to. Whatever you need to do to get this thing done that you love so much. That's different. That's what being aligned in the heart is all about. That's what I talked about earlier. But even if you're by yourself, if you're doing something that you're passionate about and that you're aligned mentally with, you're not just doing something that you don't like to do, then the amount of effort you will expend on that thing will be tremendous. And you won't necessarily be upset about that. You won't be tired about it, or you won't wish you were doing something else because you're doing the thing you love to do anyway. So grind can be a lot of different things for different people, and some people can just see it as you just put 18 hours of work on something, doesn't matter what. But the way that I look at grind is, if you work those 18 hours on something you didn't like, then you probably wasted 18 hours because you didn't do it well. Or maybe you forced yourself to do it well, but tomorrow you'll spend 18 hours doing that thing and you won't do it well. Eventually you'll have an expiration date, you will tire, you will fizzle out. You just can't be a productive, high quality performer on something you don't like to do. So for me, grind incorporates into it the heart alignment. That if you're a hard worker, that you're willing to do a lot of effort to see your dreams come true, and then you have a clear dream that you're ready and passionate to execute on, and you put in that effort, and that's what I see as grind, because then suddenly you're working 15 hours a day, suddenly you're working Saturdays and Sundays, suddenly you're waking up at 6, you're staying up until 11 p.m., and people respect those hours, but I look at where that comes from, and to me that can only come from the heart. It's funny, I like what Jeff Bezos said about that, because he's asked about that all the time, right? And so he says he doesn't like the word balance, because that implies 50-50 in the structure of that phrase, that question. So what he likes to say is, what does he say? Work-life harmony. In that there's a kind of a cohesive harmony with how everything works together, and you don't always know which one takes more of your time. You could have, be passionate, you could be grinding on something, and suddenly you're spending 18 hours and you're not coming home as much, and you're not being with your family as much. And then come a holiday and you're at home and you're with your family and you're not grinding. You're grinding with your family. You're putting the 18 hours with your family instead. So there's no balance. There's no 50-50. And with me building something that's important to me, that I'm passionate about, there's no way that I could spend 50 hours of every day not building this and doing something else. I need to be spending a lot of time on this. But then I sort of match it up with, or harmonize it with other times that I don't do this and I spend more time with my family. And it's that conjunction of the two spheres of your life, that as long as you have both and both are happy, then you can do more of one and more of the other. Where does the heart lie? I mean, that's going to be such a core question. And if you consider how many hours you work in your life, per day, times per week, times month, year, 80 years, 90, 100 years, right? Basically live to work. I mean, we spend most of our time working, and we don't spend most of our time with our families. And so the work thing has to be essential, and you must find that thing. That's like priority number one. Like finding your wife is number one, and then finding this is like number 1.1, 1.2, 1.58. Like right up there, almost right up there for the wife. Like it's so important. And how do you find that? People get seduced by salaries, or they get seduced by like buzzwords or career, fashions and fads. Like now entrepreneurship is a fad, and people want to start their own company. Like it's nobody's business. Like of course, well, doesn't everyone have a company of their own? But 10 years ago, nobody had a company of their own. Like that wasn't a thing, and it's a fad now, and I don't think you should follow fads. So don't do what people think is a cool thing, and if the cool thing is to be an influencer now, then be an influencer, start a company, do what's in. I would go the other way. I would say, forget about the whole world, shut everybody else off, and ask yourself, this is what Steve Jobs used to say, what makes your heart sing? Like on your own, like this is what Gary Vee also says, like if you have your work and then you have your time to do your own stuff, assume like you didn't have to work and you just had you won the lottery and you could just do your stuff, like play games or watch movies, like whatever the thing is that you love to do, make that the work. Why can't you make that the work and find a way to get paid for doing that? Then you're getting paid for doing something you love anyway, that you do it for free, but now you're getting money for it, and you're like, I'm set now, right? That's a career, that's worth having. It's enough.